Australia renowned for its stunning beaches, vibrant cities, and high quality of life. But beneath this idyllic surface lies a growing issue: the housing crisis. What's causing housing to become unaffordable, and how does Australia's housing situation compare to other countries facing similar challenges? Let's dive into the causes, the global context, and potential solutions to this pressing problem. The housing crisis in Australia stems from multiple overlapping factors, ranging from population growth to policy failures. To understand the severity of the problem, we need to look at the key drivers behind it: population growth and urban density. Australia's population grew from 13 million in 1970 to over 26 million today. And most of this growth is concentrated in major cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Migrants account for a significant portion of this growth. While migration boosts the economy, it places immense pressure on housing in urban areas, where infrastructure and jobs are concentrated. Canada, like Australia, experiences high levels of immigration. However, cities such as Calgary and Edmonton actively develop affordable housing alongside urban growth, unlike Sydney or Melbourne, where restrictive zoning laws often limit higher density developments. 2. Insufficient housing supply. The Australian housing market faces a major supply and demand imbalance. According to the Grattan Institute, Australia needs over 600,000 new homes to meet demand. Why is it so difficult to build more homes? Zoning restrictions. In Sydney, nearly 70% of residential land is zoned for low-density housing, making it difficult to build apartments or townhouses in areas with high demand. Cost of construction. Global supply chain disruptions and labor shortages have caused construction costs to rise by 15 to 20% in the last 2 years. Japan has addressed housing shortages by relaxing zoning laws and allowing high-density developments near transport hubs. This approach ensures consistent supply, keeping Tokyo's housing market relatively affordable despite its massive population. 3. Investor dominance. In Australia, property investment is incentivized through tax policies like negative gearing and capital gains tax discounts. These benefits disproportionately favor investors over first home buyers, driving up prices. Unlike Australia, Germany has strict regulations on property speculation. Investors face higher taxes, and housing policies focus on creating long-term rental stability rather than home ownership at all costs. This has kept Germany's housing market less volatile. 4. Financial policies and interest rates. For years, low interest rates made borrowing cheap, fueling demand for housing. But as the Reserve Bank of Australia began raising rates in 2023, many households found themselves struggling with higher mortgage repayments. In the US, low interest rates after the 2008 financial crisis also fueled a housing boom. However, government-backed affordable housing schemes like FHA loans helped more first-time buyers enter the market, something Australia lacks on a large scale. Part 2. Consequences of the housing crisis. 1. Rising homelessness. The most visible consequence of the housing crisis is homelessness. Over 122,000 Australians experience homelessness every night, according to Homelessness Australia. This includes families in overcrowded homes, people couch surfing, and those sleeping rough. Finland has nearly eradicated homelessness with its Housing First policy. The government prioritizes providing permanent housing before addressing other social issues, dramatically reducing homelessness rates. Could Australia follow this model? 2. Rental market pressure. Rental affordability has hit crisis levels. Vacancy rates in cities like Sydney and Brisbane are below 1%, and rents have risen by 15 to 20% in just 1 year. Many families are forced to spend over 50% of their income on rent, far exceeding the OECD's recommended threshold for housing affordability. In Sweden, government-subsidized housing and rent control policies ensure affordable rentals. While these measures have drawbacks, they prevent the extreme rent increases seen in Australia. 3. Generational divide. The housing crisis has also deepened the generational wealth gap. Young Australians are increasingly locked out of home ownership due to stagnant wages and soaring house prices. Meanwhile, older Australians who bought property decades ago benefit from rising home equity. Singapore has tackled generational inequality by offering subsidized public housing to citizens of all ages. The Housing Development Board, AHDB, ensures that nearly 80% of Singaporeans have access to affordable homes, creating a more equitable housing market. Part 3. Solutions to the housing crisis. Number 1. Increase housing supply. The most obvious solution is to build more homes. To do this, governments must streamline planning approvals and incentivize developers to focus on affordable housing. For example, Japan's flexible zoning laws and efficient permitting processes enable rapid housing development, particularly in urban areas. This model could inspire Australian policymakers. Number 2. Tax reform for investors. Reforming tax policies like negative gearing and capital gains tax could discourage speculative investments and level the playing field for first home buyers. Like in Germany, higher taxes on speculative property purchases deter investors from dominating the market. This allows more individuals and families to buy homes without being outbid by large-scale investors. Number 3. Expand social and public housing. Investing in public and social housing can provide long-term stability for low-income families. Finland's Housing First program focuses on providing immediate permanent housing for those experiencing homelessness. This approach could be a game changer for Australia, where public housing has been underfunded for decades. Number 4. Rent control and protections for tenants. Implementing rent controls can stabilize the rental market. While controversial, rent caps have proven effective in countries like Sweden and Germany. Example: New York. In New York, rent-stabilized apartments provide security for long-term tenants, protecting them from sudden, exorbitant rent hikes. Number 5. Regional development and decentralization. Encouraging population growth in regional areas can ease pressure on urban housing markets. However, this requires significant investment in infrastructure, transport, and job creation. Like Canada's regional immigration programs incentivize skilled workers to settle in less populated provinces, helping balance population growth more effectively than Australia. Conclusion: Australia's housing crisis is a complex and deeply entrenched issue, but it's not insurmountable. By learning from successful models in Finland, Japan, and Germany, and by addressing the root causes of supply shortages and inequality, we can ensure that every Australian has access to safe, affordable housing. What do you think are the most effective solutions? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Informer for more deep dives into the issues shaping our world.